Well, I know I sound like a broken record here, but this consolidation above this old line of resistance here, this 2860 to 2880 price area, is very positive in my books. This was 11-year highs that we broke into, and there was the gap up here when we originally did it, closer to the beginning of the year, and as soon as that occurred, that was a trigger basically indicating that this could be a significant longer term pattern that we're looking at here that is going to continue to the upside. It had to prove itself, but for mine that type of price action to the upside up to around that 3150 area was proof enough that this was potentially going to stick. We got the dip to the downside. Yes, it went below that major resistance area yet again, but it did recover. It chopped higher here, and now we're up at highs above where we hit just here back at the beginning of the year, and more around towards the 3200 area, and that is quite significant indeed. This choppy price action though is the shorter term dilemma that we had. We've had attempts at labeling this impulsive, but it just doesn't look impulsive, and when you try and force accounts like that, it generally doesn't work, and price action really, what you see is what you get, and that looks choppy to me at the moment. We've got some impulsive price action to the upside here in the second half of it, but that more than likely portends to being a wave C, so the wave A, B and C, which do commonly break down into 5-wave patterns at all. So basically the end of an ABC type pattern to the upside, locking in the more intermediate wave B just there. So we're at these 3200 area just here. Couple of things to look at from my point of view. We have got these narrow price bars just in here. Now this doesn't necessarily mean, but it can indicate that we have a capping process going on. As prices attempt to rise, they're just being very, very quietly sold into by the smarter money that has come in down here, and is just looking at taking some of those profits at the moment. So that could be occurring here. Certainly if we get another push to the upside, that is quite possible as well. And I'm just very interested in this little micro pattern here. It's a rising wedge pattern, and just have a look at this, and quite often these have a little 5-wave move to a crossing over 5-wave move to the upside within it. So we have our 1, 2, 3, 4. So there is scope for prices just to pop up a little bit here, a little bit above the 3200 area, and then for a reversal to happen from there. Now quite often these little patterns, they do, when they break back to the downside, head back to the beginning of where the pattern formed, and that's right there at that minor degree wave 4 low. So if we have a running flat pattern, as we alluded to in our review tonight, we just haven't been able to get that deeper probe to the downside here to clean that out, and the higher we go, the more likely it's going to be a running flat pattern. That is if we do get that dip. So I'd be looking at something along these lines now. The intermediate wave A, intermediate wave B coming to a conclusion, perhaps one more little probe to the upside here to squeeze into the end of that rising wedge pattern, and then we get the dip down there, potentially being supported by this rising line of support just here. So potentially back down to around the 3000 area, 3050 or so, I think would be a nice looking running flat pattern. It may get a little bit deeper. That's quite okay as well. The big news pattern really here for mine is this old resistance area, and that does look to be turning into potentially quite a strong line of support now. So we're looking for that conversion over into a support area, and everything that we've seen here just looks bullish to me. We're in 11-year highs, we've been consolidating above old resistance, major resistance, and that's all very positive indeed. We've got this type A bearish divergence in place just here now on this run higher, so we need to take notice of that shorter term, that's for sure, and that's another reason why I'm looking for this type of pattern, this running flat pattern, to come into play sooner rather than later. And the other point to note is the narrow type price bars that we've got over the past 3 or 4 trading sessions. Now it's too early to really tell, but quite often when you get these little narrow price bars, and we often see it in the NASDAQ as well, we had one just here as well, it does tend to indicate that there's some capping going on. So as prices attempt to move higher, they just can't, as they are very quietly being sold into. So that could be happening just here as well, and historically with the NASDAQ, when we get that, we do get some form of dip occurring. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this type of scenario unfold, a running flat ABC type pattern. That would be the end of it. Prices staying above significant support, new support just here, and then a very strong move forward from there. So that's my expectation. We still could run higher from here, and if we do, so be it, but I think a some form of retracement, potentially back down to that 3,000 level or so, perhaps even a little bit lower, would be very healthy indeed before the next run higher.